afternoon. I'm Jerry McMillan. I'm a UROP advisor. Welcome to our proposal writing and submission workshop. Over the next hour or so, well, less than an hour, I'll talk about our upcoming calls for proposals, a few specifics about the submission process, and then we'll talk about what we're looking for in proposals, how to write one to increase your chances of it having success. So first of all, some of this will be redundant for you. One of the two calls we have coming up is called the Distinguished Research Fellowship. And for those of you that have been familiar with UROP for a number of years, this is taking the place of our spring call for proposals and is different than we've done in the past. In the past, our spring and fall proposals were both the same. We approached them with the theory of we wanted to give as many awards as possible, even if that meant we gave out a little bit less money to each student. The goal of the Distinguished Research Fellowship is a little different. Our goal here is to be able to support more fully some students, which means we'll probably be supporting fewer students than we have in the past. So the awards will be bigger than they've ever been, but the process is going to be more selective, and I'll go into that a little bit later. But regardless, the purpose of the Distinguished Research Fellowship, a couple of things. First of all, it's a chance to be recognized for your research. Even if you don't need funding, you can submit a proposal, have it recognized as worthy of support by UROP. Great resume item. If you're doing a research project, if you're spending any of your own money on that project, you can ask us to reimburse some of those costs. And here's where those numbers I talked about come into play. You can request up to $3,000 for your project. And it's the same number whether it's just you or whether it's a group of students together. You can request up to $3,000, and we anticipate that awards will be anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 per project. The one requirement we have on here is that if you're involved in multiple research projects, you can only submit one proposal with you as the only researcher. You can be part of one or more group projects, but only one as an individual researcher. So that's the Distinguished Research Fellowship. It provides reimbursement for project-related costs. The other program we have coming up is the Summer Undergraduate Research Program, or SERP. And what this does is if you're doing research over the summer and you're able to commit more time during the summer than you are during the school year, say 20, maybe even 30 or 40 hours a week, you can apply for this. Again, you can receive recognition for the research, but you can also receive a stipend for the time and effort you're putting into the project. We anticipate the awards to be about $1,500 per application this year. And the note for SERP is even if you're working on a project with other undergraduates, each of you must submit your own proposal. The Distinguished Research Fellowship is a chance to get recognized, to get funding for your project. It's funding for the project, for project costs. SERP, the summer program, is a chance to get funding for you, the student. So one, we provide funding that goes to your faculty mentors department. You arrange with them, say, hi, here's a receipt, give me money. SERP, we say, here's a check, go spend it. Two different types of funding, two different types of awards, and you are absolutely eligible to apply for and potentially receive both. Thing to think about, and I'll come back to this several times over the rest of the afternoon, the application deadline for both of these is April 7th. And in answer to the most frequent question we get that week, yes, that is 11:59 p.m. that night. And the platform we use to do our application processing frequently gets overloaded. And we get timeouts at about 11:52. So I really recommend do it an hour or two early. But technically, April 7, 11:59 p.m. is the deadline for both of these programs. So some things to think about. Before you get into the submission process, there's some things you want to prepare. First of all, you need a proposal. Proposal is a separate document. I'll talk more about what we want in it later. But it is a single document. You also need a personal statement as a separate document. You'll upload these documents as part of the submission form. The third document you need is a faculty mentor agreement form. And you can get that off of our website. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but the thing to know about the faculty mentor agreement form is you have to submit it as part of your submission, which means you have to have it ready before April 7. And you need to get your faculty mentor to sign it. So my recommendation is, as you're getting ready to start preparing your proposal, maybe even when you get back somewhere this afternoon, download the faculty mentor agreement form, send it to your faculty mentor so they have plenty of time to review it, to sign it, to return it to you so that you'll have it ready to upload. If you're doing a group project for the Distinguished Research Fellowship, you can have more than one student, as there are no limits on the number of undergrads in one of those proposals. If you're doing a group project, you are still submitting a single proposal for the project. You also need to have every member of your group prepare their own personal statement. And then you need to combine all of those personal statements into a single document that has the name, the personal statement, next name, next personal statement, all together into a single document that you'll then upload into the application process. And then just a couple quick notes about our application software itself. It's a multi-page form. Whenever you click Next, it will save what you've entered so far. You can then come back to it later. There's also at the very end of the form 2 buttons at the very bottom. The one on the left is Save as Draft. And what Save as Draft does is it saves everything you've entered at this point. And again, allows you to come back at any point after that. The one on the right is Submit Application. And once you click Submit Application, you are done. You cannot go back in and edit that proposal at any point after that. So our recommendation is save as draft, click next, go on to other pages as often as you want. But then make sure everything is exactly the way you want it before you click Submit Application, because then it's done. So that's the process. It's an electronic form. You access it from our website. Go to our website, click Opportunities. They're on that page. But what do we look for in these? A proposal. It's a separate document, and the purpose of the proposal is to describe your project and make a case that your project is worthy of support and/or funding. Some things it needs to do. It needs to demonstrate the significance of the project. Why is this project worthy? Traditionally, proposals tend to be in the range of about 3 to 5 pages. This is not a firm requirement. We always get asked, how long does a proposal have to be? And the only real answer is the proposal has to be exactly as long as it needs to be to completely and concisely make the case that your project is worthy of support. If you can do it in 2 pages, great. If you need 8, take 8. If you're getting up to 40, start looking because it's probably too long. But we don't have a firm requirement. Just make sure it makes the case you need to make and that it does it in a concise, well-written fashion. Our standard format, 8.5 by 11 pages, 1-inch margins, double-spaced, 11-point type, and a common typeface. Times New Roman, Calibri, any of the standard ones that show up. And we do not list a required outline. We don't tell you these sections need to be in a proposal because a proposal is going to be different depending on your field of study. So the way you organize your proposal is entirely up to you, your faculty mentor, and the standards within your field. For those of you in science fields, you're going to be familiar with the introduction, methods and materials, results, conclusion, or discussion. We don't require that. Your faculty mentor might. What we want you to do is tell us why you are worthy of support. Organize it as best you can to make that case. However you organize it, the proposal needs to answer some questions. Why is your project significant? What is it about your project that fills a gap in the body of human knowledge that A, hasn't been filled, and B, is worth filling? What are the goals of your project? What do you hope to accomplish? What's your role? For those of you that are working in labs, we recognize all of you, there's a whole bunch of people working on various areas within some of these projects. What's your specific role within this project? And then particularly for this, for the Distinguished Research Fellowship, how is your work independent from that of your faculty mentors? I'll go over our specific judging requirements in a couple of minutes, but one of the things we're really looking at in determining these more selective awards is what are you doing that demonstrates your value to the project, your own participation. Are you just working along, or are you doing something that is truly important on your own? Make that case in your proposal. What resources are you using? What are the tools you're using to do your project? And what's the schedule? For the summer program for SERP, your timeline's going to be just a couple of months because that's how long summer is. For the Distinguished Research Program, you can use funding you receive from that for a year. So your timeline can definitely be longer. But what do you hope to accomplish when? Lay that out in the proposal. And then finally, for the Distinguished Research Fellowship, because the funding in that program is to reimburse you for project-related costs, if you're asking for funding, how much are you asking for? And again, I'll go into that a little bit more later. So your proposal needs to answer these questions. Again, how you organize it is up to you. The length is whatever it takes to make it complete and concise. But these are the questions our reviewers are going to want to answer as they're reviewing your proposal. The proposal, the purpose, is to talk about the project. The other document, my slides are in different order than I thought they were. If you're requesting funding for the Distinguished Research Fellowship, you need an itemized budget in your proposal. As I mentioned earlier, you can request up to $3,000, awards $1,000 to $3,000. List what you are expecting to spend the money on. And particularly for unusual items or rare items, justify those expenses. For simple things, maybe you're giving survey respondents a gift card. How many respondents do you have? How much is each gift card? What's the total of that? List out what you're asking for funding for. Justify the expenses, and just know there are a couple of things that we will not support funding for on these proposals. First of all is travel to present at conferences. And just as a note, if you are traveling to present at a conference, we have a separate program, the Europe Travel and Publication Awards. You can look into that, which could give you that funding, but we will not support that through this program. The other thing we won't support through this program is things that you normally have access to. As students, you have access to a whole lot of resources, materials through the library, a lot of software you have access to. Those are things we don't want to have to cover. We want to spend our money on things you can't get otherwise. So as you're preparing your budget, think about it. Is this something I can get otherwise? Is this the best price I can get for it? And then justify those expenses. But that's the proposal. It's looking at the project and why that project is worthy of support, and if you're requesting funding, how much and why is that number appropriate? The second document is the personal statement. And the purpose of the personal statement is to describe your relationship to your project. This is about you. And the questions we want you to answer in the personal statement is, why do you want to do this project? Why is this important? How will this help you reach whatever goals, personal, academic, career you might have? What sort of background do you have that's relevant to this project? Maybe it's a project you've already been working on for a couple of quarters, even longer. How does where you are now get you more ready to work on the project moving forward? And then why does this matter to you? How is this important? How will this make a difference in your life? One of the things we all know about people is we are drawn to stories. What's the story that makes this relevant to you? Formatting for the personal statement is exactly the same as for the proposal. 1-inch margins, 8.5 by 11, double-spaced, 11 point or larger type. And then just as a reminder, if you're doing a group project, one personal statement document containing the personal statements for every student in the group. So that's the second document you need to prepare. The proposal describes the project. The personal statement describes your relationship to the project. The third document is the faculty mentor agreement form. And as I mentioned, get it to your faculty mentor as soon as you can. The purpose of this form is to formalize their role in your research. To put it a little bluntly, it's basically our way of having them tell us, yep, I'm going to support this one. We ask that you meet with your faculty mentor to have them review your proposal before they sign this document. For those of you that are working with a grad student or a postdoc within a lab, you still need to have this signed by the faculty mentor, your PI. There is a line on the form that says, this person is going to be supervised day to day by this person. So absolutely, have them list their grad student there. But ultimately, this form needs to be signed by a faculty member. They complete the form, They return it to you. It's a fillable PDF. They return it to you, and then you upload it as part of your submission. So those are the 3 documents you need before you submit. You need a proposal, personal statement, and the faculty mentor agreement form. One other question that'll always come up, though, is for those of you that are doing either animal or human subjects research, the question of IACUC or IRB review definitely comes into play. Do you need to have those to apply for these funding programs? And the answer is you do not need them at this stage. If you're doing animal or human subjects research, talk to your faculty mentor. There are processes to go through. With IRB, you may be exempt. There's a document on our website that can help you figure that out, talk you through the process. But regardless, if you're doing animal or human subjects research, you need this approval before you can begin the research. But for the purpose of our submission form, all we care about is that you recognize you're doing this type of research and you are looking into what sort of approval you need. All you need to say is, yes, I'm doing human subjects research and I may be exempt and I'm looking into it. Can't remember what the exact item says, but that's pretty much it. You do not need to have IRB or IACUC approval before you can submit our form. But you do need that before you can begin the research. So a couple of things to think about. Again, the submission deadline is April 7, 11:59 p.m. Recommend do it earlier just to avoid software crashes. The documents will then be reviewed by the UROP Faculty Advisory Board. And I just noticed the one line I didn't change on my slides. The announcements of the awards will be at the end of spring quarter, not fall. Hopefully earlier than that, but definitely sometime before finals week of spring. And then if you receive funding from the Distinguished Research Fellowship, those funds are good until the end of spring 2024 or until you graduate, whichever comes first. Some things to look at. If you go to our website, and I think I've got it. If you go to our website, click the Opportunities menu. Select UROP Opportunities. And you'll see these 2 opportunities. They're the 2 middle ones. Distinguished Research Fellowship, call for summer proposals. As you scroll down for both of them, you'll see a description of what's going on. We've basically covered all of that. And then at the bottom, you'll see details and requirements. I'm not going to look at both of these because they're essentially the same, but expand that. The first thing you'll see is eligibility requirements. Scroll down. The next thing you'll see is a link, review the guidelines. I recommend review the guidelines. They repeat most of what I've said here, but it's something you can have in front of you that has all of the information you need to know about submitting your proposal. Definitely refer to the guidelines. And then the next line, this is where the application form is. Click Begin an online application. Just as a note, the software we use is optimized for Chrome and Safari. I've run into a couple of glitches on Firefox, although it generally works. But if you have the option of Chrome or Safari, we recommend you use those just to cut down the possibility of error. As you scroll down, just a reminder, the required materials, online application, a proposal, a personal statement. This is where you download the faculty mentor agreement form. It also has links to our document that describes how to check all of the research protections things, IRB, IACUC. To talk about with your faculty mentor, you can look at this document and review it before you have that discussion. Things I want to call out as you get to the bottom: optional resources. Attend a proposal writing workshop. Check, you've done it. Just as you know, or just to let you know, thanks to Natalie back here, this presentation is being recorded. It will be on our website shortly. So if you have questions, forget anything I've said, you'll be able to come back to it. It'll be linked on our website on this page with a link, so you can refer to it as often as you want. Sample proposals. We have a page of sample proposals. All of these, we have proposals from every academic school on campus. And what these proposals all have in common is they have all received funding from UROP in the past. So these are all proposals that have worked. So as you're thinking about how do I want to organize my proposal, how do I want to put it together, what do I want to include in it, these are a good reference to check. Note that all of them have a parenthetical fall, spring, or SERP. The difference between the fall and spring and the summer proposals, again, the fall and spring ones require an itemized budget, summer does not. The other difference is the summer timeline is going to be the summer. The spring, the Distinguished Research Fellowship timeline is going to be as long as your project's going on. Otherwise, these projects can be largely the same. But I recommend checking out the sample proposals. Other resources. We've talked to the folks downstairs at the Writing Center. We've given them everything we're looking for. If you want help on writing your proposal or your personal statement, make an appointment with them. Talk to one of their peer tutors. They're used to reviewing documents and suggesting writing improvements. Meet with them. They can help you with that. We're also hoping at the beginning of spring quarter to have some drop-in hours down there as well. If we make that arrangement, we'll list that on our website here. But definitely take advantage of them. The more eyes you can have review your proposal and personal statement, the more likely it is to be successful. And then the last thing on this list of optional resources is the rubric. And this is the document that we are giving all of our reviewers as they're reviewing these proposals. And this is all of the things that we're asking them to look at. Some of them are pretty easy to guess. Format. Basically, we've told you what we want it to look like. Does it? Introduction. Is there an introduction talking about why you are submitting this proposal, why you're doing this research? Organization. Does one section lead logically into the next section? Is there a flow to it? Can I figure out how this thing is working? And then, as I mentioned earlier, level of independence. How is the research you're doing different from what your faculty mentor's doing? How independent are you from what else is going on in that lab? Because as I mentioned, for the Distinguished Research Fellowship, we're going to support fewer projects than we have in the past, but with potentially higher awards. We want to make sure we're awarding students who are doing truly individual, unique work. Make that case in your proposal. And then research question or thesis and research approach. Are you asking a good question? Do you have good ideas? Are you approaching this in a way that makes sense? So as you're developing your proposal, review this document. This is what we're giving our reviewers. They'll all interpret it a little bit differently, but these are the things that your proposals are going to be scored on. So keep it in mind as you're going through. And again, you can pick that up at the bottom of this page on our website. So that's pretty much it. Deadline April 7th. When you click Submit Application, you are done. No changes after that. And we've got these resources on our website. If you come by our office, we're on the other side of the 5th floor here. We have drop-in hours 10 to noon, 1 to 3 every day during the week. We have Zoom drop-in hours. You can check in and ask questions that way. If you want one of our advisors, me or one of the others, to review your proposal or personal statement, you can make an appointment with us ahead of time. The one request for me, and I'm sure for others as well, is if you want us to review a document, please, once you make the appointment, send us a copy of the document with at least a couple days to look at it. Because if you just walk into my office, hand me a 6-page document and say, "What do you think?" I won't be able to give you good feedback. So send it to us early, give us a chance to review it, but we'd be happy to talk to you about it as well, with the understanding that any advice you get from any of us is our personal opinion, not the word from Europe on high, but we definitely want to be able to help you with this as well. So just in closing, and then I'll take as many questions as you might have. There's a QR code on here. You'll also get an email with the same link. It's a survey. Our job in doing these presentations is to give you information that's useful to you. And the only way we know if we're doing a good job is if you tell us. So I would invite you to fill out the survey. If you think this is the most amazing presentation you've seen, say so. I'll feel good. If it's not and you think there are some things we should have done differently, by all means tell us, because we want to do it better next time, always. But otherwise, thanks for coming. Good luck on the proposals, and take advantage of us. We're here to help. Any questions? Yeah?
Is there like a posted board that we have to complete at the end of the project, or like a presentation?
So do we require you to present at the symposium at the end of your project? And the answer is no. In past years, we had a requirement that if you receive funding from Europe, we required you to present at the symposium the following May. These days, our language is, we strongly encourage you to present at the symposium. Frankly, you've done all this work. It's a chance to show off. We want you to be able to do that, but we don't have that requirement. That said, your faculty mentor may have a requirement for you to do a paper, do a presentation, something. Always talk to them, but we don't have any specific requirements for you that way. Other questions? In that case, I'm going to say thanks for coming. Have a great afternoon. And if you think of something on your way out the door, I'll stick around as long as you're here. So thanks and good luck.